Hi guys, in the last video we created this UV template and exported it, and in this video we're going to create just an ultra basic Photoshop texture to load onto this. So I'm going to jump across to Photoshop. Okay, here we are, and I'm going to open up my template. Now I've got it here in the images folder, so I'm just going to drag that in. Just grab that folder back as well, and as a reference I'm also going to grab my picture that I grabbed off the internet for some sushi. Where have I put that? Source images folder. So I'm just going to grab this picture as well, and I'm going to drag it into that document, and it'll show up as this this little smart object. So I can just kind of resize it and hit enter to lock that in. So what I'm going to do is use this as a color palette that I can pick colors off. So at the moment I don't really need that. I'm going to drag it underneath the first layer and just switch it off for a second. I'm going to create a new layer. Okay, and I'm going to fill that in with black, I think, or maybe white. Let's fill it in with white. Just reset my colors here, hit the little arrows, and using the paint bucket tool, just fill that in. So you can see that the actual line work is black on the template that I exported. So a white background for the time being will do, but I'll probably change it to black later on. Okay, so I'm going to call that BG for background, so I know that that should be the bottom layer. I'm going to double click this and call this OL for outline, or you can call it temp for template. Okay, either one of those, just so you know what it is. And what I might do is just take my little sushi picture and drag it into the middle there. I can also switch it on, and grabbing the move tool, I can drag it down into the corner. It's just somewhere where I can quickly use the eyedropper and pick colors off it like that. Okay. So, speaking of picking colors, first thing I want to do is get a background color on that, and that's pretty much this orange. So what you want to do is just use the eyedropper and pick a color off your photo reference, whatever you're happy with. Now, because this has got quite a lot of varying shades, because of the way the photograph has been lit and exposed when it was taken, you can kind of, obviously we've got darker areas which will give us almost a red color. We've got these really pale orange sections like in here, and then we've got sort of these middle kind of orange sections. So some of them are almost yellow, some of them are almost red. So what you'll need to do basically is, in this case what I'm doing is just picking kind of a mid color, and I want to create a new layer. I'll drag it under this sushi picture because I don't want to cover it completely. But what I'll do is fill this in. So you can either grab the paint bucket tool and just fill the layer in like that. Or what you can do is hit, it's usually Alt backspace, or probably Command backspace maybe on a Mac. And that'll just basically fill it in. It's pretty much using this paint bucket tool. Okay. I'll just zoom out so we can kind of see the image. So that's sort of the first section. Now if you want, you can kind of play around with this and create filters over the top to make it look a bit ripply or whatever you might want to do. What I'm going to do really is just kind of create the line work. I want this to look kind of very cartoony because that's the style of the character. So I don't particularly want to make it look exactly like this. Alright, I don't want it to look kind of photorealistic. I want it to look a little bit stylized. So I'm now going to create another layer, and I'm going to try and color pick a color off one of the little sinew stripes in here. So it's going to be this color just in here, like that. Maybe more towards a white where possible, something along those lines, I think. I'm clicking down here, but I'm actually looking over here at this color swatch. I don't want it pure white, but I certainly don't want it to be kind of looking orange. very much. Okay, so that's my sinew color. Now what I can do is I've got my swatch panel up here open. You can get all your different panels open through the window menu, so they're all in here. So I'm using swatches here at the moment. That's up here. If you have a color picked, you can click in here and it'll add it as a new swatch. So I can call this salmon sinew. And I can do the same thing with the main orange color as well. So I'll just call that salmon. And then I can just pick between the two. Two colors like that. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I've got this empty layer still. Okay, nothing in there. So what I'm going to do is start to kind of draw the lines, the line work on there. Now I'm going to go kind of along the same lines as this with this V shape, but obviously, you know, different sushis kind of sliced in different ways to get, you know, this different texture and patterning. So, you know, obviously you can kind of do it, you know, however you feel. And obviously if you're not doing a sushi guy, then, you know, you just make the texture up as you see fit, you know. It's personal taste and so on. So what I might do in order to get this sort of reasonably different lines is I might use a path for this using the pen tool. And what I'm going to do is start just creating basic kind of V shapes. You know, they don't have to be absolutely perfect. Okay. So a little bit wonky will be fine. And basically what I can do is just keep doing those all the way down the shape. And I want to keep them kind of reasonably well spaced or evenly spaced. And I just need to make sure that, you know, the thickness remains roughly the same for each one. And I am overlapping them way out of the document here. As long as I'm kind of going right to the edges of the templates, it should be okay. But once again, you know, I just want to try and get the spacings about the same where possible. And the thickness of these about the same. I don't really want to have them getting bigger and smaller, or you know, further apart than previous ones. So I can always come back in and adjust as well. That's the beauty of using the the pen tool, is that I can go in and re-edit them to adjust the spacings, everything like that. So should work quite well. So I'm getting quite close there. You can see that that's further away. So that's that's one of the bits that I'll have to adjust. And that bit there's a little thicker. It's not too important because this section here is actually on the inside of the character. So, you know, I can kind of not have to worry about getting all of those bits absolutely perfect. Now another thing that I can do basically is go and actually copy some of the ones I've already done as well. Once you've got a few in there and you've got enough to kind of mask any repeated ones, you won't notice them as much. So I can kind of now go in and start to, you know, just for the last couple, actually use some pre-existing ones. So to do that, I can select them using the selection tool. So let's say I want to use this one. So grab the selection tool, select it, hold down the Alt key, and then click and drag, and then hold down Shift, and that'll just allow me to move it up and down. And you can see how different they are. Like, you can see that this one is basically completely overlapping the one above it. Okay, now if that happens, I can go up to Edit Free Transform. And I can actually, holding down Alt, just grab the side and widen this out like that, and kind of adjust it and move it around until it's roughly about the same width, like that. Just press enter, and then what I might do is grab that one and do the same thing. So Alt, click and drag, hold Shift, and this is really just to get the last little bit in here and here. Not that we would need to really see it, or not that we would see it, but more for just completeness sake, just in case. Okay, so something like that. So that's reasonably okay. Right, now you'll see over here in the Path tab, now this is often hiding behind the channel box over here, but I tend to, you can see how I've got mine set up over here. It's quite important to have a good setup for your panels. Don't have them floating around all over the screen. That slows you down like you would not believe. So I've got like a neat kind of setup here, and I've saved them using this drop down menu, new workspace here. So I've got like a preset for me. So I've got this selected, right? I've got my color and I've got a new layer. So what I can do is come down here and press this little button here right at the bottom, and that'll fill the color in onto this layer. Then if you come down in your paths, you can just click in here and that will deselect. So that's giving us our kind of stripes, but what I want to do is add in a little bit of a kind of an effect, just to make it look a little bit more interesting than white stripes on an orange background. So on this stripe layer, so I'll just name this stripes, and I'll just call this, let's just call this BG main. Okay, so on the stripes layer, I'm just going to double click that. I'm going to put an outer glow on it, and what I want to do is select kind of a variation of this background orange. So inside here, I'm going to click on this little swatch. I'm going to click on the actual salmon color, and then what we can do is sort of adjust the darkness of it. So I might make it a bit darker and slightly more red, like that. We'll just hit OK. Now you can see over here it kind of disappears. So you can either set your blend mode for it to normal, like that, and you can actually see that line now, or you can set it to maybe multiply. All right, and then you can kind of adjust. So, you know, I can kind of do that. Maybe adjust the spread a bit. That's going to kind of sharpen the edge up. That obviously is not what I want, but you know, you kind of get the gist. All right, I might back it off to normal. Darken or multiply tends to make it a bit more red, and I want to go still for something a little bit more orange. So something along those lines I think would be okay. And you know, you can just kind of adjust it. So it kind of makes it look a bit more three-dimensional. You can see there, it kind of makes the lines pop a little bit more. And you can, for example, use an inner glow as well, perhaps, and have that kind of set to white. Let's just increase the size of that. You can kind of see that that's adding a very subtle gradient just in there as well. So it's making it look a little bit more graphic. So I just hit OK. So I'll zoom out like that and turn off the template. You can kind of see the effect that that's having. All right. Now I also need, if I turn the template on, I also need to fill this in with black. Okay, where the mouth is. I just want that to be a black color. Now I also want the background to be black as well. Okay, so I'm going to select black as my color. I'm going to use the Polygonal Lasso tool just here. So all I'm doing there is clicking and holding, and that pops out the different tools. And I'll grab Polygonal Lasso. And what I want to do basically is just trace a line a few pixels outside this main template. Okay, so I'm just going to start here, and I'm going to work my way around like this. Doesn't have to be exact. Doesn't have to be perfect or anything like that, but you definitely do want to keep that overlap in. Now this is where it kind of gets tricky, because this is so close to this just here. So I'm just going to make sure that I don't accidentally go anywhere inside this section of the template. So we'll just kind of thread it through there. And that's just kind of because of the very, very quick positioning I did with this. I could have shrunk that down a bit more to make it a little bit more friendly. So just going to go outside. Now if you go outside here, that's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine if you go outside the document for this. Just continue round. All the way around, back to the beginning, back to there. Alright, so currently what I've got selected is actually everything inside that selection. What I need to do is flip the selection out, or invert it, so that what actually becomes selected is the outside areas. So I'm going to come up to Select, Inverse, and that'll flip around. You can now see I've got these kind of edges selected. What we need to do now is create a new layer, and this kind of needs to be above the background and the stripes. All right, and we fill it with black. So we select the background, the paint bucket tool, and you can just click on the background like that, and then we'll come up and hit deselect, selection, or select, deselect, just here, Control D, Command D. So that texture is ready to go. All we do now is hit the eyeball for the template to turn that off, and we'll save this. So we'll go File, Save. We're still in Images here. What I'm going to do is move across to the Source Images folder, and we'll make sure that this is a PSD. So I'm going to call this Color instead of Temp. So I know that that's my color map, and we'll hit save. Then we'll save it again. We'll go File, Save As, and just change that to a JPEG. You could also use a PNG for that as well. PNGs will have a little bit less noise, so that's what I'm going to use. But you can use a JPEG. You can also use bitmaps, targets, EXR files, and so on. All right, I'm going to leave this video here. In the next video, we're going to import this and apply it onto our character. So I'll see you then.